Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. Well, it's Tuesday, and if you remember, last Tuesday might have been the best Early Edge episode of all time. I don't know that we can ever replicate that, but let's get to the guests in a second. Let's see what we did on the recap screen. All right, winning record, I think we are 8-6-1. I mean, listen, two of us were on the Browns +6 or +6.5. Two of us were on the Broncos. If I'm being honest, the Browns was the sharp side. That's the side that should have won. But boy, did Jameis Winston go full Jameis in all four quarters of that game. Let's bring in the stars of the show, perhaps for some reaction to Broncos-Browns. We've got buckets. We've got Erik Kuselias, I think, and we've got Mackenzie Brooks. EK, I'm going to start with you. Hopefully, let's talk Broncos-Browns, your reaction to last night.
Look, it was exactly what I wanted. Jameis Winston is that one friend that you have that calls you and says, pack your bag, we're going to Vegas, flight leaves in an hour. It's going to be good, it's going to be awful, you'll probably end up losing, and it's not going to be boring. And that's exactly what we got with Jameis. He was good. He was awful. It wasn't boring. And he ended up losing. This is who he is and what he does. I mean, why are we trying to have people, when they tell you who they are, believe them? He is a guy that's going to throw to and give up to. It's just the way it is. And that's what happened last night.
All I could think about last night after my very undeserving and lucky cover was if Deshaun Watson was playing in that game, we would have seen 16-6 as the final score. And it would have been one of the most boring Monday Night Football games of all time. Mackenzie Brooks, your reaction to last night?
Yeah, and you know what? Danny Brasco probably would have cashed another under. I was interested to see that he stayed off of it last night. So shout out to Danny for staying away from that one. I mean, just to see like four different wide receivers with over 100 receiving yards in that game is absolutely insane. I can't remember the last time I saw something like that as well. And just like Jameis, it was time to regress back to the Jameis ways. And God, do I love him. But it felt like it was due. And it all came crashing down very soon, very quickly at the end.
Yeah, it sure did. Buckets, you also had a play that you put on Twitter. It's your classic INT prop. What's so impressive is that you chose the quarterback that hasn't been throwing interceptions. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had Bo Nix to throw the INT.
I had no idea he wasn't throwing interceptions. You know my quarter flipping strategy. See, I've actually got a question for you, and you might have to think on this one a bit. You used the phrase that he pulled a Jameis. I'm curious what pulling a buckets would be. So if you got an answer for that in the chat, let me know what you think there.
Oh, let's leave that for the chat. Pulling a buckets. I think we could get really, really creative there. All right, buckets, let's pull some picks out of a hat here. It looks like you've got 3 picks for the pitch. What are they?
3 picks for the pitch, and we're going to start with a pretty tough one here because this is a cup match between Werder Bremen and SV Darmstadt. And I've been told in the comments that sometimes when I give out my takes, people don't really understand what I'm saying. So I'm going to try to Americanize this first pick here. Werder Bremen are the Giants of the NFL, and Darmstadt are the Jets. We have 2 teams that just, I think, are awful, if I'm being told correctly. 2 teams where defense is not existent at all, and 2 teams that have decent offenses. That part might be bad for the analogy, but frankly, we have 2 teams that just give up a ton of points and give up a ton of goals. Werder Bremen has one of the worst defenses in the Bundesliga, and Darmstadt is hobbling their way through this fine Bundesliga. We love both teams to score and over 2.5 goals here because this game might see 5 or 6 goals, and at -130, I got to take a stab at that. For my second play, unfortunately, I've got no way to Americanize this one. We are going to the Puchar Polski and a matchup between Polonia Wrocław taking on Wisła Krakow, and we're taking Wisła Krakow over 1.5 team total at -110. This is in the Polish Cup, so again, a cup game, you got to be a little bit careful. But 2 teams that both play in one liga, 2 teams that have experience against playing each other, and 2 teams that know from head-to-head history that Wisła Krakow dominates this matchup. Not to mention that Polonia will be missing 2 of their starting defenders. They're the worst team who's going to be missing defenders. Wisła Krakow should win this one while scoring at least 3 goals. So let's take that 1.5 team total at almost even money. And then for our third play, I've got easy to pronounce team, Sia. I'm looking out for you here in the end. We're going to the Premier League between Leicester City and West Ham. And we're keeping this one nice and simple. West Ham draw no bet is currently priced at -125. This is not a bet that I'm taking because I have faith in West Ham. This is a bet I'm taking because I have no faith in Leicester City. They are on 6 games without a win right now. Leicester at home has been appalling this year. Dare I say shambolic this season. And West Ham, a bit of a coin flippy team, at the very least should escape with a point and a draw here. So I love that safety net on draw no bet.
It's funny that you used shambolic there at the end, courtesy of the guru, I believe, because Craig Morris says pulling a buckets means using big words improperly. And Mark Buckholt says, best of luck at Sia on these pronunciations. And then Taylor DeHart says pulling a buckets is going 20-0 on a sport you know nothing about, which is actually close to something that happened this year. All right. Well, if you want to make any of those bets or any of the bets you're about to hear or any of Brian's bets in the chat, it looks like he put a lot of NHL bets in there. Go to BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10 and you will receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. All right, we got to get to Erik Kuselias' picks. We got to get to Mackenzie's picks. We're splashing the board. I got a pick in the NFL, but we got a lot of picks today in college basketball and hockey and the NBA. There's a lot of picks on SportsLine. You're going to hear all about them right after this message from our partners. All right, we're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM. EK, before we get to your college basketball picks, Scott wants to know, where are the sunglasses?
I'm feeling a lot better than I was on Thanksgiving morning. We're in a lot better place, a lot lighter, sunnier, happier place than that time. And I was feeling so good about this picks too. And I had an awful Thanksgiving betting day. But now we're back. Actually, we might not be back. I started 0-2 last night on Ken's 25 Days of Bets on Twitter. So I'm in a great buy low spot. If anyone wants to start tagging along now. Now's the time. Day 3. Here we go.
It's bounce back time. We got to follow that on Twitter at Ken's Brooks Bets. All right, EK. We've got 2 college basketball plays. What are they?
All right, I'm going to start with the SEC ACC Challenge. I'm going to take Ole Miss +3, +4, depending upon where you're shopping, in Louisville at the Yum Center, which is just a tremendous name at this point in time. Look, Ole Miss is good. Their one loss is at the buzzer to Purdue. And Louisville just lost an incredibly key piece of what they do. 12.6 rebounds. Kason Pryor, torn ACL, done for the year. I'm not sure how they're going to respond. I also think Ole Miss is better coached in this spot. I'm getting points. There's a lot of box set checks. I think this is an absolute flip toss-up game, and getting more than a possession I really like. The second one is I'm going to take Wisconsin, and I'm going to lay the 2 or 2.5 over Michigan. Fairly even teams, but number 1, Wisconsin is at home. Number 2, Michigan may be a little rusty. They've been off a whole week. And the way that they play is really why I settled here. Michigan is a good defensive team, but they will foul you. They're an aggressive defensive team. And Wisconsin is the number 1 team in the country at the free throw line. So they're going to pick up points. And in these kind of games where it's somewhere between 2 and 6, we see a lot of game scripts where it's foul, walk it up at the end. Wisconsin won't miss, especially at home. So give me Wisconsin to find a way through it with the good free throw shooting with a Michigan team that's going to follow a lot on the road, and give me Ole Miss +4 at Louisville.
All right. We've got, not to ignore the picks there, EK, we've got Brad Morris in the chat. He says, I love the Walter White shirt. Is that a Walter White shirt? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, Walter White chemistry class.
Oh, I love that. All right. I couldn't tell. Do we know the Buckets? I'm going to start with you. Do we know the Walter White reference?
Of course. Let's ask Ken's next.
I was really banking on you to know this one for us, Buckets.
That was brilliant. You all got to go back and watch that show. EK, enlighten them.
That's a show that you may have heard of. It's called Breaking Bad. Walter White, who, in my opinion, is the single greatest character in the history of television across any format. Better than Tony Soprano, better than Archie Bunker, better than Kramer and Simon. He's the number 1 all-time guy. If you look at a list like a TV Guide list, it is the greatest character in the history of television ever. And it's the greatest show, or one of them anyway. I would say top 5. You can put it anywhere you'd like. It's a great show.
Let's go.
My favorite part of that take was EK said that he is better than, and then named 3 people I have never heard of in my life. So I've got no reference point to take that off of. But I will trust you, EK.
We don't know who Tony Soprano is.
Just smile and wave, Buckets.
There's this show you
Madagascar reference. I got that one, Kins.
I mean, the fact that you went back to Archie Bunker, EK, is actually kind of funny because there's no way. Even the old people in this chat might not know.
I'm saying, if you look at a list, like a TV Guide kind of list, a Rolling Stone magazine kind of list, because I'm a sucker for 40 greatest metal songs of the 90s. I'll stay in there to the very end. I'm like a child. But anytime you see a list, those will be the other characters that are in your top 5.
That's it. The chat certainly agrees. All right, let's move on to top of my list of quarterbacks. I hate to say it. I hate to admit it. It's Patrick Mahomes, even on a down season. I'm laying the points here with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm laying 3.5, which is still up at some books, but this is -4 at a lot of places. So just to be very clear, I put this pick on SportsLine. I should have clarified with a final sentence that I would take this at 4. Again, I would take this at 4. I really like the situation here because I don't think the Chargers are very good. They've won 2 out of the last 3. 2 of those wins, that one, it was prime time against Cincinnati, where Cincinnati poured a ton of points on them in the second half. Could have easily won that game and lost. Then they beat a bad team, and then they beat the Atlanta, or they lost to the Ravens. Then they should have lost to the Atlanta Falcons last week and somehow pulled off a win thanks to Kirk Cousins. The offense looked really bad. Look at their yards, like yards per play, yards in general. It was kind of pathetic against an Atlanta defense that isn't very good. And then the defense let up a lot of yards too. So now you have to go to Kansas City coming off that fraudulent win. Kansas City hasn't been great. I think they will get a little healthier. I believe that Humphries is playing at left tackle this week. Even if he doesn't, though, you got Isaiah Pacheco back, and you've got a very flat offense who may be without Ladd McConkey, and at the very least, Ladd McConkey's injured. I really like the Chiefs. I think this is very much a get-right spot for them in terms of covering the spread. Give me the Chiefs -3.5. I'd play this at 4. I don't think it'll creep up to 4.5. That's a different conversation. But give me the Chiefs -4 or -3.5. All right, that's a Sunday pick, right? We're kind of moving along there, but we gotta reset back to Tuesday, Mackenzie. We got a couple of NBA games. What are the picks?
Yeah, I'll take care of the association for the team here today. We got 2 plays. Very similar logic for both. One will be an upset, one will not be an upset. We're going to start with our little plus money line here with the Toronto Raptors against the Indiana Pacers here. I like the live dog at home. Again, this Pacers team, their team total is set at 121. I just think there's no version of the story where they go over that team total, and that's because the Pacers are not shooting well from deep, especially not as well as last year when your star Tyrese Halliburton shooting 33% from deep, and then you're all shooting 33% on the road, which is down from at home, and they're all averaging just under 111 on the road this season, 115 overall. So still all just numbers drastically down from last year. And then you have the Raptors, who we have projected for a pretty big rebounding margin here. You have the Pacers, who are -4 in rebounding differential on the season right now. And now that the Raptors have Scotty Barnes back, they've been in that plus differential, +2, +13, +5, +12, all on the boards with him back. So I think they'll have the rebounding advantage. I think their defense will be able to, keep this Indiana team under their team total. So they should be able to cash that with the money line. And then we're going to the Knicks. We're laying the 4.5 with the Knicks here. Again, very similar situation against Orlando. Orlando just doesn't have any business going over their implied team total of 105. They're projected to shoot just 29% from deep in the SportsLine model. And in general, they shoot around 30% on the road. So it's not like we're making that number up again. So we also have the Knicks, who are +8% 3-point differential at home. So that's the big edge there. And that's why we like them to cover a spread when you have the 3-point advantage as well. And they should be able to out-rebound this team. We have it as a +7 rebounding margin for the Knicks. And again, Orlando just getting out-rebounded on the road this season as well.
All right, we like the Raptors money line. We like the Knicks -4.5. I like the fact that Danny Brasco is in the chat. Ask him anything you want. Love his participation. EK, a lot of reaction, and I do have a question for you, but I do have to ask you as well. KC3 says that EK reminds me of Kramer. Your thoughts?
It doesn't sound like a compliment.
I don't know if it is or not.
Doofus.
Okay, here's my follow-up question, because we're doing the pop culture thing. Did Better Call Saul try too hard? Because I felt like it kind of did.
It did. I'm with you. Yeah, I did. It definitely did. And I didn't love the ending. So, it's like the movie Heat, which is the greatest movie with the terrible ending. But this same thing. I didn't love the ending of Better Call Saul. By the way, Buckets, after Breaking Bad, they had a prequel, not a sequel, a prequel about one of the characters called Better Call Saul, who was the lawyer. I know this is all whoosh over your head.
No, I've got my homework today. I'll check out both The Sopranos and also Breaking Bad. But I do just want to say that as soon as you said the movie Heat, if you looked at me and Ken's, we both made the exact same face because we have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
There's this guy.
We just made like eye contact across the classroom.
Who was in the movie, and this guy called Robert De Niro. They were the two stars of this movie. You may have heard of one or both of those men.
No.
Buckets?
Nothing. Robert De Niro.
You don't know Robert De Niro.
If it's pre-2010, I have not heard of it. I have not watched it. I have not listened to it.
All right, I'm not that bad.
You guys are.
You're on my team, Ken.
You guys are punking me. Now I get. It's a joke, right? There's no way neither of you have ever heard of Al Pacino.
No, I know Al Pacino.
And you've never heard of Robert De Niro?
I've heard of him. I don't think I could put a face to the name right now, though.
So someone in the chat, just to give you some perspective, EK, someone in the chat said when you're doing character references with Buckets, you got to start at SpongeBob SquarePants and like go from there. Like, that's the baseline we're working on.
Let's like hit them with their own medicine one day, Buckets, and start naming some crazy pop culture new.
I have two teenage boys. Bring it on. Let's go.
This is a good potential like side project for SportsLine, some pop culture stuff. I think that could
was Robert De Niro the one in 30 Rock?
Oh God.
Wow.
No, I'll try again.
I'm
Sorry.
Googling him. I'm Googling him for us, Buckets.
All right. Well, this is probably a good time to get to the recap screen. Mark,
an old guy.
Says,
how would I know?
This is brutal.
He's the most famous.
He was born in the 40s.
History of the
he
world.
was born in the 40s. Of course, we haven't heard of it.
Chiefs -3.5 is my look ahead to Sunday. Buckets. I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot since this is already off the rails. I think it's Werder versus Darmstadt. Both teams to score plus over 2.5 at -130. And Wisla Krakow team total over 1.5 at -110. And West Ham, Dave Matthews Band, draw no bet -125. Erik Kuselias, Ole Miss +4. Wisconsin -2. Mackenzie Brooks, Raptors moneyline +125. And the Knicks -4.5 at -108. Buckets, did I nail that? I nailed it.
Yeah, I'll give it to you, man.
Oh, man. Okay, I didn't nail it. All right. That's on me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was a pretty entertaining show. The pop culture moments are always fun with this crew in particular, but these shows are always fun with all of you. Mark, Jason, Danny Brasco, Joe, Taylor DeHart, Gipper's Picks, Haas, Matt, Brad. Thanks for being in here. Thanks for the picks. Thanks for the questions. And thanks for the comments. And thanks for making my Tuesday better. We hope we made your Tuesday better. On behalf of Mackenzie Brooks, Erik Kuselias, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, all those shows. Catch up on them if you haven't. Buckets, Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. I'm the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge. Have a great Tuesday, everyone. We rest our case.